Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2074, and we're with Meredith. Hello. Meredith. Hi. So we're doing our contest prep. We're coming into 15 weeks out. Yes. So we talked about, the last episode, we actually talked about some live nutrition adjustments.
Yes.
Which was, we thought, pretty cool. So hopefully the listeners did as well. Yeah. So you spent your first week with these new adjustments, and we hit a new weight PR. Yep. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Woot, woot, woot. How did you feel through the first week with this adjustment?
I could tell there were less calories.
How so?
I was hungrier.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good way to tell.
But actually, now that I'm thinking of it now, since half of the calories we cut, 300 calories?
Yeah, 300 calories.
So since half the calories we cut was sauce, I was surprised that I felt it.
Well, that's interesting, yeah, because we didn't lose volume. We only lost calories. So that's true. The Bobo's I don't know. What would that be? A very pathetic muffin?
Yeah.
Very, if you got a muffin from a bakery, you'd be disappointed. That's the size of it.
Yeah.
It's a disappointing muffin. But I believe that's what you mean is you didn't lose a lot of volume, but yet you can still feel the difference. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I was hungrier this week for sure.
Yeah. Now, how do you, just for those who might wonder, when you say you're hungrier, can you expand? Is that throughout the day? Is that following a meal? All of a sudden you're hungry right away, or normally you're not? How does the hunger show for you?
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
A mix of all of those, depending.
Oh, okay.
But this last week, I would say it was mostly in between meals.
Okay, so you'd feel hungrier sooner for your next meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
An hour earlier. Or
okay, yes.
A half hour, 40 minutes. I was just aware of it more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was a little hungry going to bed.
Okay.
A little bit, not too much, but yeah, I did feel a difference.
Yeah, and that's something. If people are around people who diet for shows, you'll often hear kind of a joke that the person can tell what time it is based on they're hungry. Mm-hmm. So if they normally eat at 9, 12, 3, and 6, all of a sudden they're like, oh man, it must be 12 because I'm hungry. Mm-hmm. So that's a good sign that you're eating a meal and then you're like, I'm kind of ready for the next one.
Yeah.
Now the goal would be is you notice that feeling, but the feeling isn't so overwhelming or so soon that you break and end up overeating at the next meal or eating too early. Yeah. So it's a feeling you want, but a feeling that you want to have be manageable.
Correct.
Yes, which is definitely challenging to create if somebody's not used to it or if it's their first time ever experiencing that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm trying to think, how do you explain it if you've never felt that before?
Well, that's interesting.
The difference of I'm under eating, I'm hungry versus...
Oh, okay. One of the ways I would look at it is if you're under eating, there's stages to it. Number one, you're going to have intense cravings that you can't win. You can't beat them. You will break. That is the sign that you're in the first phase of under eating, is your body's fighting it. Then the second phase is there's no more fight. All of a sudden, you're just not hungry for any of your meals. But you're only eating 800 or 1,000 calories. And it's that's clearly too low, but yet the body doesn't feel hungry. That means you've actually gone very long time.
Your metabolism.
You did it too long. Yes. So in the initial phases of being underfed, you'll have cravings and you will lose to those cravings. Even very mentally disciplined people. Because,
100%.
Yes. There's the terminology that you'll often hear people use is the starvation effect, is that the body will feel starved. Now, you'll have some people say the human body can go, 30 days without food. And I'm like, technically, physiologically, sure. Mentally, probably not for most people.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of impacts when we're hungry.
Yeah.
So is it as severe as if I miss this next meal, I'm going to die? Is it true starvation? No. But it's the aspect of your body is feeling underfed. Therefore, it's telling you, hey, eat.
Right.
And it's telling you to eat things that are easy, quick, available. Like if it tells you, hey, I want you to eat, but I'm hungry for like Thanksgiving dinner. You're not going to sit there and cook like a turkey and make stuffing, and so it's going to tell you I want carbs. It's going to say I'm hungry for carbs.
A girlfriend of mine said, "How do I know?" And sent me a text. How do I know if I'm tired or hungry?
Ooh, okay.
Right? And I said, this is a really fun question. However, do you want chicken and broccoli?
No.
No. You're probably tired.
Yeah.
Like, would you devour some chicken and broccoli right now?
Would you eat healthy food?
Would you eat anything that's relatively good for you? No.
Yeah.
Right? I want all the sugar. Give me all the sugar. Okay, take a nap.
Yeah.
You're tired.
Yeah. I've actually had a client ask me that before, is how do I know if I'm tired or hungry? And I said, sit down for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're tired, you'll fall asleep in 5 minutes. If you're hungry, you will be jittery and like you're gonna start to get up and move, and like you won't even last 5 minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like some people can't fall asleep that fast. Yes. Like you are a person where you have to be on the verge of death to nap. Like your naps are surviving death. Your body's like, well, I can nap or I can die. Yeah. So I think you nap once a year.
Yeah,
basically.
I do when I have a fever once a year.
Yes.
It's a glorious day when I can nap.
Yes. That's your positive of being sick. It's like, holy crap, I took a nap
Finally
today.
get to nap.
Yes, whereas people like me, I can sit down in 10 seconds and nap.
Gone.
Yeah, be done. But
the only place where we're polar opposite.
Yeah. Well, we actually do like different colored Skittles.
Oh, this is
yes,
true.
we like complementary colored Skittles. So we can eat an entire container of Skittles and not argue over the color. Yeah.
But yeah, that's complimentary.
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect.
But it is fun.
Yeah.
So I think you did a good job managing this week. It's good to know that you could feel the difference. That obviously shows up in that we are seeing like an increased rate of weight loss. We're seeing progress in the direction we want. Now the typical response is when you would make a nutrition adjustment such as we did from last week to this week, we're dropping roughly about 300 calories. The first week the body's really going to notice it. The second week the body kind of deals with it.
I'm kind of looking forward to that part because I know my body's going to be adjusting this week.
Yeah.
Last week was, wow, I felt that extra.
Yeah.
2,100
so sometimes people
calories
get
gone
nervous.
this week.
Yeah.
Nervous about what?
They'll like, oh my God, I was so hungry this week. Like, what am I going to do? It's like, it'll taper off. Like the hunger will
wait a minute.
Taper a bit. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So typically it's going to be 5 to 7 days for the body to adjust to like an energy adjustment if it's an appropriate adjustment. If you adjust to like dietary foods, like differences in like bloating, digestion, that's usually 3 to 5 days. If you change like foods and want to feel a difference.
What about like you said earlier, that if you're like over restricted and you say, okay, I'm ravenous, I want everything, and then all of a sudden I'm not hungry for anything.
Yes.
What's the tipping point between, okay, I cut 300 calories a day and I'm exercising, I'm getting steps. Now I'm going to start adjusting to that.
Yes.
How do I know I've adjusted versus I'm not damaging metabolism?
Oh, great question. So the feeling you're feeling now is the normal time span between meals. Let's say it's 3 hours. And typically you would be like, okay, by the third hour, I'm ready to eat. Now you're feeling, oh my gosh, it's like 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm kind of forcing myself to wait 30 to 45 minutes. When you adjust, you go back to, oh, okay, I feel ready to eat at 3 hours.
Okay.
The overcorrection when people undereat sustained, then it's even 3 hours later, you're like, I don't even care. I'm not even that hungry. Yeah. Cool. So it swings an extreme.
And then when you're really close to the show, you're just dropping food into a hole. You're never satisfied.
Yeah.
You're always hungry.
It is very interesting. There's
it's weird.
There's a lot of there are individual differences as well at times. Yeah. So I've had people where like they're eating and like you can eat and 15 minutes later you're like, did I eat? Like I forgot, like what was I doing? Like I'm still equally as hungry.
Sink, so probably ate.
Yes. Yeah. And then I've had people also where as they get closer, nervousness and anxiety starts cranking up. and then all of a sudden they're not hungry for anything. And you're like, hey, you still gotta eat. Like, I need you to eat. And those usually more like maybe 2 weeks out or less.
Yeah.
Where like anxiety starts creeping in and stress starts creeping in. Because then you like invite family, but what if I don't do well? Then my family's going to be there and I've wasted their time and their money, and you get all into those little fun thoughts.
Or you're like me and you have no one there for your show.
No.
And then you're fine.
Not anymore. Now you're going to have somebody.
Yeah.
Actually, you're going to have a lot of people. So
I
it'll be
hope
fun.
so. It'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Terry. Hopefully Terry can make it.
Terry.
Yeah. That'd be fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have a couple people.
It'd be meaningful.
That'd be cool. Yeah. So it'll be exciting. And then we'll get a lot of videos, a lot of photos.
Yeah.
Woot woot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do want to cover is often when women are dieting, they will struggle to get in enough protein in their diet. That's kind of a big thing. And one of the biggest things is the consistency of meat. When you ask a man, this is...
Consistency?
Yes. And
like texture?
Yes, texture. Okay. Yeah. So this is definitely gender stereotypical and not always true. But
awesome.
Typically, if you ask a man to eat like meat, they're like, sure, whatever. If you ask a female to eat, hey, I want you to eat 2 meals of 6 ounces of chicken, they're going to be like, I'm tired of chicken. I'm like, it's half of the first day. Like, you can't be tired of chicken yet. Like, that's not possible. So, and then they'll switch to like eggs, and then they're tired of eggs in a day and a half. So it can be challenging. Really? Oh my gosh, yeah. Do you find the texture of meats to be off-putting at times?
Only if it's not cooked all the way.
Yes. So I do know slightly the answer because I'm with you every meal.
Yeah.
You do actually relatively well. Actually, you
chicken.
do, but not even relative. You do well.
Thank you.
There you go. Yes, you do very well. I like that. I'm even editing it. You do great. There we go. Got here.
I'm perfect with
yes,
my diet.
You do a great job. You do eat basically anything that I ask you to do, which is great, and I appreciate that. In diets in the past, have you played around with different meats to find different textures or different consistencies of the meat that you like? Like, do you like ground turkey versus chicken versus what?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm boring.
No,
because
that's okay.
Food serves a purpose, and you just don't. You do what you need to do.
And I think that's helpful.
That's probably not a good. That's not like the answer you were looking for.
I wasn't actually looking for anything because
I eat the same thing every day,
yes.
and I'm happy about it, and I like it. But if there's like pieces of chicken that aren't, I don't even know the word to describe the way I like it. But I know that if I bite into it and I feel like I'm biting into raw meat, like that texture, I can't do it.
Like no go.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, I'd prefer and I enjoy when you answer just honestly.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people that connect with your answer, and then I like to give the counterpoints and like the other answers.
Yeah.
So just from we work with so many people.
Yeah.
But that would be like one tactic we've used is if somebody they don't like the consistency of a meat. One of the benefits of the way in which we teach people to eat is, really you're trying to look for like a chicken breast, you're looking for a certain rate of digestion. You can find that rate with the same leanness quality of like ground beef, ground turkey, a whole bunch of other meats. You can find it in like tofu, depending on what other adjustments you make with the foods that pair with it. So one of the enjoyable parts is, although our diet is set to be, we eat, bagel and egg for morning. We eat the core power to protein. We eat the chicken with the chickpea pasta for lunch. We also can substitute those anytime we want.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the big thing is knowing that there's options and substitutions.
It alleviates a lot of anxiety of the what if I can't do it or I didn't get to it at a certain time or there's an emergency. Like, what if I have to go spend 10 hours in urgent care?
Yes.
What do I do?
Exactly.
So life happens, and it's good to know you can make adjustments.
Yeah.
But we call ourselves streak eaters.
Yes, we do. Yes.
You eat the food until you're sick of it.
Yeah. We tend to pick foods we like, eat them for like months on end, and then all of a sudden make an adjustment if an adjustment was needed at some point for some reason, whatever.
Our refrigerator's the most boring refrigerator ever.
Yes. Like we joke. There was Brian Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a little bit about him, and he's somebody. If you ever looked him up, it's called the Brian Johnson Experiment, and the guy's trying to like reverse aging, and he's doing a lot of experiments and stuff. And we were listening to one of his podcasts, and he talked about when guests come over, they can like the treat that he has, the most treaty thing that he has is almonds with cocoa powder on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, that's so boring.
Yeah.
And our house is the same.
We
have diet soda, chicken, red hot, like Greek yogurt.
Greek yogurt.
I don't know what that's.
It.
Yeah. And then some old Bobos we didn't finish up.
But that's not in the fridge.
That's true. That's not.
Our refrigerator is empty.
It's boring. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think we have a couple onions we never ate.
I threw them away.
Okay.
Never fried them up on top of meat like I
No. Yeah. But consistency can be. I believe that there's power in consistency.
Yes.
However, it is also nice to know that you have options. And what I mean by that is sometimes clients will struggle to be consistent with their calorie counts. Mm-hmm. So they might have a range of 2,000 to 2,400 calories. It's like, can you please just be in there, somewhere in that range for the next 2 weeks? And they'll be scattered all over the place. And part of the problem is they eat a different food at every meal of every day. Mm-hmm. And you're like, it would help if you were to pick, say, 2 or 3 breakfasts that work, and then just eat those. And there's benefit if somebody if they haven't done a diet like that. I think it's extremely helpful.
Yes.
You can learn a lot about your willpower, discipline. There's a lot of personal development that can be gained by saying, I'm just going to eat the same food every day, even for just a week. And it really teaches you how to control food.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of people that eat the same thing every day like we do.
It's common in this world.
In this world, yeah.
But it's not common in regular life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the aesthetic competition world, people who physically fit, they compete on a regular basis. It's ridiculously common that they eat the same thing all the time because they want a very controlled environment. Mm-hmm. They want to know they're growing. They want to know they're cutting weight. They want to know everything's as controlled as can be.
Yeah.
If somebody's new to this world, then that is very different. It's odd to eat, the same thing for breakfast every day.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
And what I did notice also this week, I couldn't sleep, so I was up at 4:30.
Oh yeah, you're
on Saturday.
Yes.
So I was up an extra 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
3 hours. And I felt that.
Yes. By dinner time, you were like, I'm ready.
Yeah, and we did legs.
Yeah, you train legs super early in the day, and that's even a difference is if you train early in the day versus later in the day. So we'll touch on that real fast, is the earlier in the day you train, the more aggressive your body will want to replace what was lost and burned off and repair and make adaptations. So the earlier you train, the more hungry you'll feel, and there's going to be a difference in the rate of utilization of food. And I'm saying it very carefully because I want to make sure I don't say things that aren't correct. Mm-hmm. But when we consume food, our body either does more with it and has less to expel, or there isn't much of a demand for the food to do anything, so it does what it needs, saves some, and expels the rest. When you train early in the morning, you have a lot of muscle damage, you have a lot of empty glycogen stores. There's a lot of stuff for the food to do. Mm-hmm. So the body tends to utilize that food more. Metabolism would be rated, or you could use the term of your metabolism being faster or higher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. I love it. I'm just, my face was like the metabolism thing.
Oh, okay.
Right, yeah.
I'm being very careful in my language.
Well, you always are, which is good.
Okay.
But just some of the conversations I've had with other people that are flashing back in my mind.
Oh,
it's
no.
fine.
Okay.
We're good.
That's funny because I stopped talking because your face looked like it was in pain. So I was like, am I saying something wrong?
Nope. Yes. Nope. But yeah, so I was my own worst enemy yesterday.
Being up a little early and having to deal with that hunger, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you did great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But up early again today. Did a lot of movement, but not feeling it as drastically as yesterday. I think the extra time awake really, that's a surprise that I think most people might not be aware that they experience that. I don't know.
There's a ton of lack of awareness. So when we work with people with variable schedules, doctors, nurses, firefighters, first responders, the list goes on, where they might be awake. I'm trying to think, like, let's say somebody has 3 12-hour shifts in a week. And they're like, oh man, my work day, I got super hungry in the afternoon, I ate a lot of candy. It's like, well, you were up 3 hours earlier than you are on the non-work days. Did you eat an extra meal by then? And they're usually like, I ate one less meal because I was so busy I didn't eat. It's like, well, then, yeah, your body's going to need that food. So when your body's awake, you burn significantly more calories than when you're asleep.
Yes.
So the earlier you wake up, the sooner and more you would need calories. Yeah.
So you gave me a little extra chicken last night.
I did. I gave you extra protein, which is not super wonderful. Protein is not enjoyable in terms of
But
satiation.
because I was hungry,
Yes.
I was like, bring it on.
Yes.
So that's that. Are you hungry enough to eat chicken?
There you go. Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Or tofu.
Wonderful example. And that was the reason why I gave you the extra chicken was you were awake for longer. We had the muscle damage early in the day, and your quality of sleep that night will be better if you're not starving.
Oh, yeah.
So it's better to give, I think I gave you 3 extra ounces of chicken. It's not even who cares? That's at 80 calories. So it would be the benefits of the extra protein far outweigh missing that little extra volume of food.
True.
Yeah. So if you can't sleep and you're up until, who knows what, or you only sleep 3 hours, then the next day becomes even worse, then it becomes harder to fix.
That's true. All you needed was 3 ounces of chicken.
Hey, it solved it, did it? Yeah. So it's helpful to know those little tricks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. One of the questions I did want to ask you
Okay.
is we started this process 24 weeks out.
Yes.
And we said a typical contest prep is probably about 16 on average, maybe up to 20. Some pros and people who are already in shape might only do 12. But 24 is a long way to go. So I had a question for you, a 2-part question. So I'll ask you both parts and you can pick which way you want to answer it.
Okay.
Is how do you stay motivated? Then what experiences in your life have built your motivation endurance?
Oof.
Yeah, a lot to unpack here.
Pandora's box.
Uh-huh.
What keeps me motivated?
So if somebody's like, I want to diet, but I can't diet for 24 weeks, that's half a year. How am I going to do that?
Yes,
Yeah. Let's say they really struggling. They try 4 weeks of a diet and they end up breaking 2.5 weeks in. How did you build your motivation to be able to just, this is what you just do, right? That's how you and I think, is I picked a goal.
Yep.
This is what it takes to accomplish the goal. So I'm doing it?
Yeah.
How do we get there? How did you get there?
Oh, that's fun. The dark answer or
Well, everyone's going to love to hear that.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, please.
I think always trying to be better.
Okay.
Just always trying to be better. And to do that, you have to do one more X, one less Y, one more.
Okay.
I competed in dance for a very long time.
Yes, you did. Yeah, 20-some years.
Yeah, and I remember when we won the best overall platinum, the whole show.
Yeah,
right?
the whole shebang.
Yeah, and we were 11, 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And we were all so excited, and our parents were so excited. Yeah, we were so excited. And we get off the stage after they hand out the awards and we walk off into the wings. I remember my dance teacher saying, "Why are you so excited? You were late. You were off beat. Your toes weren't pointed." And it was and I left crying with my medal.
Man.
We won overall, but we were told it wasn't, you were good enough for the show, but it wasn't good enough.
So you're 11 years old and you're shit.
Yes.
So trauma.
Right. Thank you. I didn't want to say it.
So you've had a lifetime of trauma.
Right.
So if somebody says eat chicken for 24 weeks, you're like, sure.
Or someone telling me I can't do something and I say, okay.
Ooh, that's a fun
I guess I'm going to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's a problem, though.
Well, this is, and here's like, and I don't think there's any answers to these questions, but I love asking them, is likely 99.999%, and I'm going to pretty much say 100% if anybody listening to this has had trauma in their life. Like, if you haven't, how? Please email us.
Yeah.
How did you
email
avoid
us your
it?
life tips.
How did you avoid it?
Yeah.
But why does trauma build some people and break some people?
That's a very tough question.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows. And actually, I have actually listened to several podcasts and read books about trauma because a lot of the clients we experience and like they experience trauma and that relates to why they have health conditions that they don't like.
Yeah.
So
it's so much to unpack. I'm nervous to touch it.
So we'll stay high level.
Okay.
So the books, research, all the experts say that there really is no definitive answer as to why trauma builds some people and breaks some people. A universal experience, though, is everyone is broken at some point.
Yeah.
Everyone breaks. It's not that the people that are built by trauma didn't break.
Oh, the Rocky quote behind you.
Heck yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember it offhand right now. Do you want to try to read it?
Yeah, I can try to read it.
Yeah.
Okay, it says, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life, but it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much can you take and keep moving forward? That's how winning is done. Boom.
Yes.
So that's hanging up in our gym.
Yes, so that's one of our motivational
I love it. I love it. It's true, though.
I love it as well. Yeah.
I think, too, so trauma being one.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What you're taught from a very young age. You can be good, but you have to be better.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
You can be the best, and you still have to be better.
Yeah.
I also personally, like with my degrees and all of my interests, everything's an experiment.
Okay.
So if I can keep the controls steady and just have a handful of variables, what do I get to see in myself? Or what can I note or make a habit or track to either understand the process, myself, what works, what doesn't work? I like looking at almost everything like an experiment.
Yes.
Like, I was in a very, very dark place at one point in my life, and I didn't know if I was going to see another day, more or less. And I remember thinking, like really thinking through it and saying, let's just see what if. And in my mind, it was this weird game of like, just postpone it and see what happens.
And I love that you're opening up about that, talking about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of power in trying to think how to word it is rather than saying, this is where I am, this is the end. Saying, well, if I wait 5 more minutes, it could be different. If I wait 24 hours, it can be different. If I wait 2 weeks, it can be different. Yeah. And then also, why wait? Why be sedentary? Why not be proactive? Why not do something to make it different?
Right.
And I think you and I definitely have that in common. Everything that we do, we analyze and kind of see what happened. What can I do next? Like, if I try something and it fails, I don't associate myself as a failure. I just tried something and it failed. Like the thing didn't work. I'll just try something else next.
Yeah.
And then I just try something else next. Like I don't. Yeah. Like it's just there's always like the what's next or what else can I do. There's always a continuation.
Yeah.
And I think you and I find that very natural, and or we learned. at a young age to continue it.
And I remember thinking, well, clearly it can't get worse. Let's just see if it gets. Let's see if it gets worse. Like, let's play this game. Let's see what happens. Let's give it. I would make countdowns. I would like, okay, I'm living in it. I can't do it, and just either planning something and looking forward to it, or like doing something and therefore having something to look forward to can get you.
That's huge.
Through each day.
Yes. Yeah.
So even having the show November 9th, if I'm having the worst of days, even though I have you and Daisy Girl.
Oh yeah.
I need something for me.
Yes, always.
That's what can I look forward to that is improving myself, or, life feels like it's beating me up, or the world feels like it's beating me down. Mm-hmm. What can I do that counters that? Like we always say, give counterpoints. If you have a thought, give a counterpoint.
Yes.
So that's how I stay motivated in probably weird ways, or tell myself I'm a piece of shit if I don't go work. Like, stop being so lazy. Just go frickin' do it. It's 10 minutes. You can't do 10 minutes. Like, it's just, you just start talking to yourself. Like,
well, you and I have
just frickin'
developed tough love.
Yeah.
So in the sense, like I've said in many ways in podcasts, like you have to learn how to parent yourself. Mm-hmm. I would never talk to a child the way I talk to myself. But
no, I get arrested.
Yes, you do have to be tough to yourself, but you also have to know when to love on yourself. Mm-hmm. So there's days where I have to say, like, dude, you didn't work out. It was a shit day. You're fine. Just pick it up tomorrow. And then there's days where I'm like, you're a piece of shit because you didn't work out. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, go downstairs, work out right now. Mm-hmm. I don't give a crap if it's midnight. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that we've learned it. And it's always modifying and like, molding and changing a little bit. Mm-hmm. But you and I both have that internal voice where we will push ourselves when we need to be pushed. We'll say it's okay when it needs to be okay. Yeah. And I think one thing for me personally, and then I'd like to hear your take on it, is I'm learning and developing a strong awareness of what's within my control and what's not. If it was outside of my control, I have to give myself grace. Mm-hmm. If it's within my control, you get no grace.
Great point.
Zero grace.
Absolutely. And that's, I don't want to cut you off, but
no, that was great.
Similar, even in the last 10 years, in the last, I don't know if I want to say 5, but maybe, when I set goals every year.
Yeah.
Right? End of the year, I go through a whole process, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I try to set goals for the next year, and I look at a 5-year plan. And for a good 5 years prior to that, I didn't plan a damn thing. Because it felt like I had no control over anything that was happening around me. And I was always, like, I was the kid in middle school that I'm so excited for back to school because I get all of the new supplies. I get a planner on day one. But then again, I was also the 3-year-old playing in my dad's office with all of his, like, office supplies.
Daddy, look at these pencils.
Yeah. I'd be like, it was a whole thing, but always a fan of stationery. Anyway. I don't know. I forget where I was going with that now that we were talking about.
Okay. We're talking about control, things within your control, not within your control. Getting grace.
Yeah. So So I have always liked planning, but then there was a point where I just stopped because there was no point. And I realized but I didn't realize it at the time, I stopped because I was trying to make goals that weren't in my control.
Oh, that's a good point.
And they weren't happening, so I kept saying, what's this point? Like, why do it? And then I realized, oh shit, like, I need to set goals within my control, and those look very different.
Oh yeah.
When you start to think about what you really can control and what you can't.
Yeah, it can be a little depressing at first because it feels like there's not enough.
Right. I was just gonna say, you look at a goal and you're like, that's freaking boring.
Like my goal is, like a client's goal might be, can I have 3 meals today? Mm-hmm. And I literally have, I was talking with a client, literally talking to a client today about that. Mm-hmm. I don't care what they eat for breakfast. I don't care what they eat for lunch. I don't care what they eat for dinner. Yeah. I'm like, we have to develop the habits to eat more food. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things I'm going to skip as to why that's the case. Just trust me that that's the case. The person needs to eat more. They're going to need to eat more, and they're going to need to eat more often. Mm-hmm. So their breakfast might be, like one day it was coffee. And I was like, first of all, congratulations. You had something.
You had some dirty water.
You had something.
Yeah.
So thank you. Mm-hmm. Number 2, there's no calories in coffee. The point of us eating something was to have calories.
You're so cute.
So I was like, congratulations. I'm glad you took the time. Like what I told them was, you now know it's within your control most often that you have time. Mm-hmm. If you had time to make coffee, you'd have time to grab a granola bar out of the closet. Mm-hmm. Do this or this or this. So I said, what you've proven to yourself is that you can, in fact, have breakfast.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, they're like, hey, I feel good. What? I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And it was like, was coffee the best breakfast? No. But was it something that made them feel good about themselves?
Mini win.
And did it develop into a new, better habit? Absolutely.
Mini win.
And that's the thing. That's
take wins where you can get them.
Yes. So the goal was, we said, like, what's within your control can sometimes be depressing. So did having coffee benefit her on that day? Really, no, probably not. But did it build a future habit that develops into where she needs to be in the future? Hell yes.
I love that.
So that's a step. It's a step in the right direction.
Right.
And that's all you need is one freaking step.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just, success is just a million little steps.
Yeah.
Anyway. So.
And I think going back to how can trauma build versus break people? Mm-hmm. The people that you see that you would define as being built by it, they took that step. Like once they were broken, they did what you said. They still gave it more time.
Right.
But they said, well, what is one step away from here? Mm-hmm. It can be have coffee for breakfast.
Right.
It can be, text a friend once a week because maybe you're not as depressed if you text somebody. Mm-hmm. It can be literally anything.
It can be put your phone on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever it needs to be for you is to pick a singular step. And it doesn't matter how small that step is. Mm-hmm. Actually, the smaller the better because it's easier to do. Mm-hmm. So the more pathetic it seems to be, the better it is because you're more likely to do it.
Yeah, and also a lot of therapy.
Therapy helps, yeah.
To recognize differences. I get probably 15 years ago. I don't know if I thought 15 years ago that therapy was like taboo, but it's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
right.
We talk to people now that have, like one of the clients, they said the other day they met with their brain coach.
That's cute.
That's what they call their therapist.
I love it.
Yeah, their brain coach.
That's cute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that. So building up motivational, what did you say, resilience?
Yes.
Strength.
How do you build up, like I've used the word motivation, endurance.
Endurance.
So how do you stay motivated? And the typical phrase you're going to hear is it has nothing to do with motivation. Motivation's fleeting. You have to be disciplined.
Well,
I
don't compete against other people. That's also a thing.
Well, that's a good point. You want to expand on that a bit?
Yeah, I don't. I can only control how I look at the show. I can't control if 5 freaks of nature show up.
Yeah, there's no defense in bodybuilding.
Straight offense.
Yes.
No defense.
Yeah.
It's funny. I can't control who shows up.
Yeah.
I have to do everything I can to know I brought the best package I could, and so be it. Mm-hmm. I also know I put myself last for like 7 years.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Last. And even trying to get into school. I put that first, but I still came last.
It's interesting. I know what you mean by that. Yes.
Because doing that was, yes, for me, but also, for the future. So it wasn't for the me now, it was for the me in 5 years.
Yeah.
and I wasn't, maybe that's a better way to say it. I wasn't taking care of me now. I was taking care of future me.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to have something that I can look forward to. I realized I was, photos, I didn't look like myself. I didn't feel like myself. And it was, this isn't the season for it. This isn't the time for it. And we did everything we could to look great in a wedding dress. We did everything we could to look good in a honeymoon. So we did things, but it wasn't me.
No.
Because me is, let's see if I can get my pro card. Let's do a half Ironman. Let's run a marathon.
Yeah.
That's me.
You're used to bigger things.
Yeah, that's me. Me isn't, let's do 20 minutes of, whatever a day.
Yeah.
And that's it. But that's great. Like, I had to do that.
It got you out of the nothing.
Right. And what keeps me motivated is because I desperately want to get back to feeling like myself.
Mm.
So that keeps me motivated. Turning 40 in December and having the show in November.
Oh, that's true.
That's a big motivator.
Show up to your 40 and just be looking badass.
I want to know what I'm going to look like. This is the first time with you coaching me, so I want to.
Yeah.
I know how good you are, so I just.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I want to see it. I want to know what I want to look like. It's like. It's unwrapping a Christmas present really slowly.
Very slowly.
It takes 16 weeks to open
it's
up
like
a Christmas
Russian
present.
dolls.
The nesting dolls.
Yeah, you just keep taking the top one off, one off, one off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what it feels like.
That's neat. And I think that helps, like in the sense of how people can stay motivated for longer is find more motivators. Think of multiple things that can make you.
And it was, I don't care if it was cheesy or not. It worked, but I had like photos to motivate me for my first show.
Oh, okay, photos
of just like fitness.
Oh, okay,
like,
photos like what you like.
What I want to look like.
Man, this person looks awesome. I wish I could look like this version of me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But that's something I've done since I was like 12, 13.
A lot of people do that, but then also a lot of people don't. Like I've talked to people before, and they're like, "Well, like say they're struggling to follow the diet, and they're just not motivated." And I'm like, "Well, what do you like? What do you want to look like? What are you doing this for?" And they're like, "Well, I don't know." And I'm like, "Well, figure it out.
Well,
let's find out what you want to look like."
What never worked for me was like hanging up a small dress or like a bathing suit, like hanging up something and like working towards fit in that.
Why do you think that is that didn't work for you?
Let's try and think through that live because I don't know.
Is it one of the things like for me
it's
personally?
Like you can't see it.
Well, then what hits me is I can't control that.
Right.
Like I can control if I eat my meals today. I can control if I work out. I can control my daily actions. But I can't control whether I'm going to fit in that thing at the end of this.
Right.
Because maybe all of a sudden your lats are a little more muscular than you thought, and the top doesn't fit, and you're like. Well, the top doesn't fit not because I'm fat, just because my lats were bigger than I thought they would be when I picked this thing as the thing I want to wear.
Yeah.
So for me, that the ability to control the outcome will make or break my motivation. So like a pro card, for example, that's a fun goal to go for, but you have no control over it.
I have no control over it. But 10 years ago, I would have felt like I did.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. Because if I work hard enough, I can get it.
Right.
And it's like,
yeah.
Eventually, like if you work hard enough, you can put yourself in the position to be in the running for it, and then you just have to do a bunch of shows until it tends to work out that day for you.
Right.
So there's some degree of control, but then there's some degree of not having control.
Absolutely.
Yes. So the more I can control an outcome, the more motivated I feel. But what's funny is sometimes I also lose motivation. If I feel like I know I could do it if I wanted to do it, I know all the steps to get there. I can just do those steps and I can get there. What sometimes happens is I'll start.
It's demotivating?
Well, I'll start. And then all of a sudden I realize, I don't want that anymore.
Interesting.
Like maybe along the process.
Can you give me an
example? Here's a goofy example. I wanted to learn how to play the guitar.
Yes.
At one point in my life.
Yes.
So as I started into the guitar, here's a less complicated example. Is
you're amazing.
Well, I know where that example is going to go, and it's going to lead down a bunch of rabbit holes. And the whole point was to try to do a quick one. So yes. So an example that is young version of Rob.
Okay.
totally dorky, is when I used to play video games, Madden football.
Okay.
When you play Madden football, there's a choice to where you set the computer settings super difficult.
Yeah.
The game's a grind. You might win like 9-6. Horrible, boring, not fun whatsoever. So I would pick it to where I would try to win like 77-0. And if I missed one play, I would like want to flip out, quit the game. Like if I wasn't perfect, I would lose my shit.
Awesome.
So that's unhealthy. But
So we're the same.
Yes. So what I started to realize was I would play the game and it might be like say 40 minutes, but I messed up something in that game.
Yeah.
So I'd immediately play another 40.
Yeah.
Because I want to fix that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, dude, you just spent an hour and 20 minutes playing a video game. What else could I do for an hour and 20 minutes? So you might have had the goal of I want to perfect Madden football.
Yeah.
And then along the way, it's like, oh wait, now
I should get fresh
I
air.
changed.
Yeah.
Like I realize now I don't want to perfect football. I want to make myself better.
Awesome.
So, and I would give myself the permission to change that.
Yeah.
So once I lose motivation towards a goal, I allow myself to stop. And that has helped me more than it has ever hurt me in my life. Because typically by the time I'm willing to change, I don't have regret, and I'm not changing because it was hard.
Yeah.
I'm not changing because I don't want to work that hard. I'm changing because I just simply don't want it anymore.
Right.
And
knowing the difference.
Yes, understanding that difference. I was very lucky I understood that very young, like 15, 16 years old, because I hated myself so much that I was so aware of if I was giving up on something because it was hard versus giving up on something because I just didn't want it. If it was hard, that made me want to do it more.
Yep.
So if I knew I didn't want it anymore, then it clearly couldn't have been hard related because otherwise I would have tried to double down my efforts.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. I understand that. Interesting.
So that was supposed to be the quick example. It was not.
It's okay.
But it's an easily understood example, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the only video game I've played is Duck Hunt, but...
Duck Hunt is badass. Yes. Although, did you cheat and put the gun like right on the screen?
No.
Of course you didn't, because you're a good, like, you're the person who never does anything bad.
Me and my friend Brendan.
Yeah.
We met in preschool.
That's awesome. Well, that is when you play Duck Hunt.
Yeah. Then, yeah.
Or in college drunk.
Which I wasn't, so...
No.
First grade. I remember standing on it in his living room playing Duck Hunt.
That's so cute. Yeah, Duck Hunt was awesome.
Yeah.
That dumb dog, like funny, like shoot that dog. Get so mad at that dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were good games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're simple.
But yes, okay. But I never. I wanted games, but I wasn't allowed to have them.
Well,
So I wasn't allowed to build any goals around video games.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel free to judge me if you play video games, but I believe I can make a pretty strong argument as to the time would be better spent on other things in life. Yes. Yeah. Unless your job is to play video games and you literally make money doing it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Power to you.
Yes. Good for you.
Yeah.
Actually, well done.
Well done, sir. Man.
Yes. Yeah.
They them.
Exactly. Yeah. All of those things.
Yeah.
But I think that's helpful to dive into motivation.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking about a contest prep, people are going to have moments where they lose motivation, where they struggle with motivation. That's very normal. And then everyone in life is going to have trauma. Everyone in life is going to wonder, how do I see successful people on the other side of trauma? And the answer is they simply just decide to continue to try to do something. And eventually there's something built into what you see them doing now.
Yeah.
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 Awesome.
But always disclaimer to see your medical professional and therapist.
Yeah, I definitely think if somebody's struggling with trauma, like you'll often hear, we'll talk to somebody about it. Somebody might not be the best person, so it's better to talk to people who are like aware. Like if I want to learn about plumbing, I talk to a plumber. If I want to learn about electricity, I want to talk to an electrician. So if you want to learn about mental health, it's probably good to talk to a actual therapist.
Right.
So I wouldn't, rely on what your friend down the street or, somebody you grew up with is doing or saying.
Yeah.
Typically those are okay for maybe support systems, but not necessarily for advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to throw in there about motivation. Because depression can wreck motivation.
Oh, 100%. So.
Yeah, so you need something to build you out of that.
How do you get out of depression?
Loaded question. Because the depression isn't a one-size-fits-all. So,
that's actually fun for some people to hear.
Yeah, it's so not one-size-fits-all.
Because you're going to hear somebody say, well, this is what I did, and well, you just do the same. It's like, it doesn't work for me.
You're right. But there's one medicine for one won't work for the next. It'll make
That's
you feel
true,
weird, and the other one's fine, or no effect, and night and day. But it's just wild. But for me, when I in depression, I did go to a doctor. I did get pharmaceutical intervention. But I also understand brain chemistry and hormones.
You are a chemist.
And so it's like, okay, if you're in this long enough, if you've experienced trauma long enough, or whatever, and you say, okay, I'm not me now. I need some help to get me out of this.
That's good.
And then you stay in close contact with the doctor. You check in regularly, and then that kind of sheds a little light on it, and then you can find joy in doing other things, maybe get more motivated.
Yeah.
The chemistry balance starts coming back. Like I said countdowns to look forward to things.
Yeah.
I intentionally plan things and go force myself out to go do something.
Yeah.
Just if it's basically your circumstance putting you there, trying to change the circumstance to get out, so you're like, I know me when I'm great.
Oh, okay.
So what's going on in my universe that something isn't great and I'm here? What do I need to do for myself to get out of it?
Yeah.
And depending on the severity, I mean, talking about mental health and depression and anxiety is like you talking about nutrition, right? It's like, okay, how do I lose 10 pounds? And you go,
I need to know a lot more about you before I can answer that question.
Same thing about depression, anxiety, right? So I'm only speaking to what has worked for me in the past.
Yeah, and I think it's fun for people to hear that and
yeah.
For example, what you're presenting is information.
Right.
They can gather information from a lot of sources, figure out what might pertain to them, give it a try, and go from there. So you're giving information, not necessarily go do this.
Just advice, yeah.
Yeah.
Not advice. But I know too many people, unfortunately, that died by suicide. So, that's just why I think I value it a lot is... Yeah. If someone goes to see a therapist or gets medicine, they're weak. But if they kill themselves, die by suicide, then they should have talked to someone. And you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, that's typically those two things are what you hear or feel in society.
Yeah. So if this helps someone, great. I hope it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not, by any means advice.
It's just recommendations. Like one thing, I can start the next thing I'm about to say is say, hey, this helped me.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll help you.
Right, and
that's safe to say.
Working out, endorphins. Going for a run, endorphins. That's
and then
great.
Also options. Whenever I was going through a depressive period, I struggled feeling motivated to work out, and I love working out.
Right.
So it's man, something's wrong.
That's exactly knowing yourself. Yeah.
But I would be okay with a 10-minute walk. Or it turned into maybe a 40-minute walk or an hour and a half walk. So for some reason, lifting weights felt like it was too much trauma for my nervous system.
Oh yeah.
But if I could just go for a walk, I was at least moving. I was separated from a lot of things, you're kind of secluded while you're walking, so you can kind of disconnect and dissociate from some things that are depressing you. So part of what helped me get through that period was two components. Number one is give myself options. And number two was to give myself lowered expectations, but still expectations. So I'm still going to move today. But how can I move today that feels okay? I'm still going to eat today, but how can I eat today that feels okay? So I would give myself a standard that I believed would be a progressive actions. But I would allow myself to make them as easy as possible. And that helped me a lot coming out of depressive state.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was. I know you probably didn't sit down thinking we were talking about these topics, but I like touching on this stuff because a lot of people's success with nutrition training goals.
We mentioned it last time. We mentioned that last podcast. It's food. There's so much emotion tied around food.
Mm-hmm.
It's used as reward. It's used as punishment. It's used
social connections.
Yeah, right. Gatherings.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not eating, people get on you about it. If you're eating something that they don't, they get on you about it. It's like it's this topic that everybody has to deal with.
Yeah.
For the most part, if you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, you're either dealing with it now or you're dealing with it later.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, but the question about motivational endurance is good. That was a good one, but it opens up. There's a lot there.
There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, but I like it because it presents it as a place to start unpacking it.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is struggling, they're like, I've started 27 diets and I've never followed through with any of them. Well, why is that? And start maybe, rather than starting the 28th, go figure out why.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dive into it a bit and try to figure out, that underlying issue.
Yeah.
And that can be scary as hell. But if you don't address it, you might never, move forward.
Yeah. I mean, hell, I used to binge eat.
Yeah, we both had eating issues. Like, we had eating disorders. I was anorexic for 2.5 years.
ABCs of eating disorders. I mean, had them all.
Yeah.
Exercise bulimic, not bulimic, but the rest. I had them, all of it. But having the awareness of that and taking at least one step changed the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So, but people will see you're motivated and think you always were.
Oh, yeah, that's always, that, like, we were just born that way.
Oh,
And it's
no.
like, nah. I was born pretty freaking lazy. I've had to fix that. Yeah. I was a lazy person.
That's hard for me to believe.
For the first 15 years of my life. Yeah.
That's hard for me to believe.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad I've changed into a person that you wouldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's still like something you deal with every day.
Laziness?
To some degree, like for example, if I didn't have to wake up, I like to sleep. Like, I like sleeping in. It helps because I don't have great quality of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I have had to develop the discipline to wake up even if I don't want to. But the choice to wake up every day rather than sleep in is still a choice I make every single day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Every day.
I believe that.
Yeah.
And I even thought that to myself because I tell myself an object at rest stays at rest and an object in motion stays in motion. And, more or less. So it's kind of like as long as you just start doing something. Because so just exactly what you said.
Well, I love that. Yeah. I like touching on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's coming up this week? Do we have anything new and exciting, anything different this week?
No.
No, we do not. It's the same thing again.
Repeat.
Yes. We do have some travel coming up in the next month. But this week will be the same stuff. So we have the second week of the lowered calories. Yep. We know your body will likely have some hunger, but it'll also adjust some, so that's good. We'll look to see if we have a new weight PR, because we're in a calorie deficit. We should be still continuing to progress on that. Mm-hmm. Our goal with training is just to basically try to keep training every day. If we ever miss a day, we just double up the intensity and volume the next day. Not literally double, but it's usually probably like 1.5. But just keeping the train rolling.
Yeah, yep. And I won't say what the number was. We'll say it all at the end. But I looked at the scale today.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Yeah. So this was the first time in our journey that you looked at your weight.
Yes.
Yeah, which is neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you said
like cry or didn't have a mental breakdown for the day.
Went downstairs, made coffee, hugged Daisy.
Yeah, just
regular day.
Kept going.
Like okay, awesome. Data point.
Yes.
But I could see, like, old me could have freaked the hell out.
Yeah, we didn't even touch on this at all yet in the podcast. Do you want to touch on it? Or you want to save it for next week?
Time. What weight as a thing?
How
long has it been? How long have we been yapping?
We're at 59 minutes and 42 seconds.
And we'll save it for next week then.
Okay, we'll touch on it next week because we'll see what happens with your weight this week.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about specific numbers and how we feel. So, like, for me, for example, like right now I'm weighing between 285 and 295. If I were to wake up and, like, say my goal is to lose weight, and I've done diets over the years, you look at me like, where's he going with this?
No, I'm like, you lose weight, you want to gain weight. Well, but anyway.
Yes. So when I've dieted in the past, for me, what's been fun is the stages. I've been as low as 207 pounds in, like, the last, say, 15 years. That's the lowest I've been in a long time. But I remember I was excited in different stages. When I got under 240, I was like, oh man, this is serious. I started that diet at 275. So I went from 275 to 207. And it was a 10-month diet. So I remember from 275 to 240, I was like, I'm kind of doing okay. Nothing really changes. Don't look that different. When I crossed 240, I was excited because I could start playing basketball again. Because under 240, my knees and ankles and stuff feel
Or you could
okay.
ride a horse in the Caribbean.
That's true, yes. So, but I was excited because I was like, I can start doing, like, some of my cardio could just be I go play some basketball.
Yeah.
And this is before you and I met. So there was, like, a local park, and I was like, I'll just go shoot some hoops and some cardio. So I was excited, like, to hit 240.
You're cute.
And then when I got to 220, I was like, okay, I feel like a skinny little teenage kid that, like, I don't even look like I own a gym. And I was super depressed from 220 down to 207. And it looked like I'd never touched a weight in my life. Now, I got compliments. Everybody told me I look great, but I was like, I feel like I've lost all of the progress I've done in my entire life, and I lost my shit. And then when I started eating food again, I got back up to 240, and I felt confident again. So for me, 240 is kind of like a neat number where if I hit 240, I'm excited in one way because I can play basketball, but I'm also depressed in one way because if I'm under 240, I feel too thin. So a number can sometimes mess us up.
Yeah, I like the 140, 142 mark.
Oh, okay. Like it as in like what way?
I liked the way I looked then.
How many times have you weighed 140 to 142 in your life?
I don't know. Oops.
Is it only once, or do you think there's been...
No.
Yeah. So there's probably been times in your life you've weighed 140 to 142 and didn't like it? Times you've weighed 140 to 142 and like, I look badass.
Yes.
So it's kind of fun, like, to know that. Ooh.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We use a teaser to get people to listen to next week.
Yeah. And I know where I say, okay, if I really like the way I look, I feel confident, I feel strong, clothes fit well, look great. Then I step on the scale and I say, oh, okay. So that's what this number looks like now.
Oh, yeah. And that's hard to do sometimes because we usually have preconceived ideas about that number. And even if we look and feel great, we see a number and we're like, fat. It's like you literally just said that you looked and felt great.
Well, yeah, the BMI scale told me I was, I think, severely overweight.
Yeah, I'm morbidly obese. I should be dead.
You're morbidly obese, and I am.
You're like the
borderline,
one underneath morbid.
I'm obese.
Yeah, I think is it like I think you're overweight. I think that's what your
I'm going to look it up
classification is.
real fast.
Okay, you do that, and then what I want to share with people is, if you haven't listened to the last couple podcasts, shame on you. No.
That too.
But
you're cute.
2 podcasts ago was a nutrition podcast titled "Weight is Just a Number." That was podcast 2072, and I actually talk about that one's just me in that podcast, but talk about where people will sometimes predetermine what they want to look like based on a number. When if your goal is what you want to look like, then it should be based on looks. So you can listen to podcast 2072 to get a little bit of a perspective on how to properly set numbers and weight in the process of trying to reach a fitness goal or an aesthetic goal.
I'm overweight.
Okay.
By the BMI scale. I was answering that.
That's just a wonderful thing to hear blurted out.
Yeah.
I'm overweight. Yeah. So
I love you so much.
I love you. So BMI says you're overweight.
Yeah.
Okay. Like in it?
I'm in it.
On the edge of it?
In it to win it.
In it to win it. You're going all the way?
Yeah.
I'm smack dab in the middle of overweight.
Okay.
Hold on. I know. Tangent. However.
Oh, tangents can be fun.
You are...
I'm 6 foot tall, 290
You're borderline
pounds.
obese and extremely obese.
Nice. Where's extremely obese? What do I have to get to?
Your goal of 300.
Oh, man. So I do have a childhood goal. Like when I was 16 years old and when I was 15 and I started reading fitness magazines, my goal would have been, like I was looking at bodybuilders and I was like, man, they're 300 pounds, 20-inch arms. So then when I was 16 and started lifting weights, I always wanted to get that size. So I'm 40 now and my arms are over 20 and my body weight is close to 300. So it would be fun to kind of like touch that goal. So when I reach 300, I will have reached my childhood goal.
Extremely obese.
And I'll be extremely obese.
Yep.
So my childhood goal was to die early.
Yeah,
apparently.
F the BMI scale.
Yes.
Anyway, go back to your closing. I'm very
That's fine.
sorry.
That's good. Yeah.
But-
I shared in actually that podcast I mentioned, 2072, that I had to pay a fat tax for my health insurance. Yeah, so I had to pay a fat tax, which the lady hated that I called it that because she could never legally agree with me. But I made sure I said it every single time I talked to her.
I remember you told me.
Yeah, I had to pay a fat tax. I had to pay extra money every month because I was fat. And I would have had to cut to 181 to lose that fee. So I was like, I'm paying to not have to be 181. So I had to pay a fat tax. This is absolute bullshit. Yes. I'm like, I'm probably one of the healthiest people you're going to speak to.
I know.
And I have to pay extra money for being fat. This is bullshit.
Neither of us would get coverage.
No. I got denied life insurance.
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
I was like, I don't do any of the fun drugs. I don't smoke. I don't even drink.
I don't eat fried foods.
Yeah, you're not going to cover me? Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, you are heavy for your height. I have to deny you.
Yes.
My heart is as healthy as an ox.
I have great numbers.
Yeah.
Grr.
Anywho.
Grr.
Save that for another day.
Yes. Okay, there we go. That was
I'll
fun.
save that for the next podcast
Yes.
where we talk about,
Yeah, so we'll talk about that even more
I know.
next time. But it'll be fun this week to see your weight go down even more.
Yeah.
And then you can talk about how you're feeling versus what you're seeing and how we balance that emotionally and mentally.
Cool.
As if we do. Yes. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for listening. So if you have any questions, if you want to know anything, if you want to suggest any topics in these podcasts you want to listen to, you can always reach out to us. Good gosh. It's like I don't talk. On our website, www.brutalirongym.com. On the bottom of the homepage is a contact form. You can send a message anytime you want. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. If you like the podcast, you can also consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on the website. And then if you like the information we share in the podcast, we actually share a lot more and a lot of different stuff on our social media channels on Instagram and YouTube. We're also sharing Meredith's recent workouts.
Yes.
So if you want to watch that, you can see her recent workouts on YouTube. And it's all under the name Brutal Iron Gym. So if you look us up and find us, please follow us because it helps to grow the reach of those social media channels. Cool.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for being here, Meredith.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
And if you stayed this long, thank you for listening.
Yeah. So as always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. Yay.